It can be difficult to explain how to play the game of Mottainai. The purpose of this video is to show one example play to demonstrate some of the ideas, not all of the ideas, but some of the ideas that you will encounter when you play the game. So what we see here is an example setup of what you may see in the course of a normal game. And the first thing that you would do on your turn is go into the morning phase. The first thing you do in the morning phase is you pare your hand down to just 5 cards. In this example hand, I have 7 cards, so I need to get rid of 2 of them. So to do that, I simply take 2 of the cards and perform a return action, placing those 2 cards at the bottom of the standard playing deck. The next thing that you would do during the morning phase is you would take the card that is in your task slot, if you have any card there, and you would place it into the center of the table, which is considered the work floor area. At that point, once that's done, you would take a card if you want to do this at all. You don't have to, and take and choose the next task that you will be playing and put that into the task slot area. So now we're going to move on to the noon phase of the game. In the noon phase, the first thing you do is you perform the tasks of all of your opponents first, after which you then perform the task that you put down. So the first task I'm going to do in this case is going to be the monk task. And by reading off the little sheet here, what the monk task does is takes a card from the floor and moves it to your helpers. In this example, I'm going to take this card right here from the floor, and I'm going to tuck it underneath my helpers here. So you can see I've got 2 potters and a clerk in my helper section. Now I'm going to move on to the task of the other opponent. In this case, it is the clerk action. And reading here, the clerk allows me to take a card from my craft bench and move it to my sales area. So here is a cloth that is in my craft bench, and doing that action allows me to then take that card and place it into my sales area. But you'll notice that this clerk action also appears here, and what helpers do is each helper that is here allows me to do that action an extra time. So if I had 2 extra clerks here, I could do that clerk plus 2 more. In this case, I can do 1 extra clerk. But of course, I don't have any more cards in my craft bench. So what can I do? Well, for any of these 5 different actions that are listed here, I can do alternate actions, basically. I can do a craft action, which I'm not going to go into in this example, or I can do a prayer action. And a prayer action is simply this. You take a card from the top of the deck and you place it into what's called your waiting area. And the waiting area is cards that will come into your hand at the end of your turn. So that completes both actions off of that clerk there. You're beginning to see some of the things that you can do with the helpers section. Now you'll notice, had I been able to do a potter action, I would have been able to do the action itself plus the 2 potter actions here. But you'll notice this card here, which is, these are called completed works, these cards on the sides. And this here, this clay or potter, has a value of 3, which means it has the ability to cover up to 3 potter cards of its type. And so these 2 potter cards are covered. On this side, the helper side, anything that is covered will actually gain you 2 extra actions per card. So had I been able to play off of someone else's or my own task of a potter task, I would be able to do a total of 5 different potter actions, which also could be combinations of the craft or the prayer action. So what you see on the left is kind of an engine that allows you to do interesting things. Okay, we are still in the noon phase of the game. I have completed the tasks of my opponents, and now I'm going to do my own task. In this case, the task is Smith, As you can read from the little helper here, it says complete a work from your hand, support it by revealing materials from your hand. So let's take a look at my hand. What I want to do is, in this case, I'm going to try to complete this item here, which is socks. In order to complete that with the Smith action, I need a total of 2 cards. So one of the cards is the socks themselves, of the cloth material. And the other support I'm going to get from my hand is from this other cloth material, the cloak. So I have enough to complete this as a completed work. In completing it as a work, I have the option of putting it on the left side or on the right side. On the left side, that's going to allow me to cover more cards to get multiple actions. But if I put it on the right side, and I am going to put it on the right side, and I'll explain why. This allows me to score more points. Now you'll see here, I have a stone and a cloth. The stone is worth 2 and the cloth is worth 2. Now, before I put the socks down, the cloth was not covered. There was not enough material there to cover. I would need at least uh, something to cover that cloth. But there wasn't any, and that would have netted me 0 points. The stone is covered by this stone here. This can cover a total of 2 cards. But now that I have this, this is covered as well. So any of these covered sails will be equal to their points. So 2 points and 2 points. And that helps me to gain more points for the end of the game. Okay, that completes the noon phase. So now we're going to go into the night phase. The night phase is very simple. I simply draw the cards from the waiting area up into my hands, and that completes my turn. A quick overview of some of the things that we're seeing here. Any of these cards that are played as completed works, the text that's on the card, as soon as they're played as completed works, that text goes into effect, so that can change the game quite a bit. As far as scoring points goes, at the end of the game, the point values on the completed works will net you points, plus any covered sails, plus any cards in your hand of a particular type, but the type has to be cards or types of cards, or types of material, I should say, that you have the most of for sales, whether they're completed or not, at the end of the game. Now, how the game ends is either the deck runs out or someone has 5 completed tasks on the right side or on the left side. So just to clarify, this walkthrough through a single turn is just to kind of get your feet wet as to some of the things you may see in the course of a game. It doesn't cover all of the rules, but it kind of gives you an overview of what kind of things you're going to be experiencing.